Everyone who saw the necklace laughed at it. Some laughed openly. Some smiled politely. Others shook their heads and said nothing, but their eyes told the truth. To them it was just an old thing, something better left in the past. Something with no place in a fast, modern world. She laughed the loudest. She was young, confident, and certain she understood how life worked. She believed in progress, logic, and moving forward without looking back. Old traditions felt like shadows, long, heavy, and unnecessary. She wore modern clothes, followed modern ideas, and trusted only what she could see and explain. And the necklace explained nothing. It hung around her grandmother's neck every single day. A rough cord held small, uneven beads carved by hand. Time had dulled their color, and years of touch had smoothed their edges. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't fashionable. It didn't match anything. But her grandmother treated it like treasure. Whenever the old woman touched the necklace, her fingers slowed as if each bead carried weight. She held it during prayer, during silence, during moments when her eyes filled with memories no one else could see. Sometimes she whispered to it, her lips moving softly, like she was speaking to someone who could hear her. That made her granddaughter uncomfortable. They lived under the same roof, yet felt like strangers. The grandmother moved carefully, respecting time and tradition. The granddaughter moved fast, chasing success and freedom. Their worlds rarely touched, and when they did, it was often with tension. The granddaughter thought her grandmother lived too much in the past. The grandmother thought her granddaughter was losing herself. But neither said it out loud. So the necklace became the easy target. Whenever relatives visited, the young woman joked about it. She called it old superstition. Said it looked like something from a forgotten village. She laughed about how people believed objects could hold power or memory. To her, the necklace was sentimental junk. Something people held onto when they were afraid of change. Her grandmother never argued. She never raised her voice or corrected her. Instead, she smiled gently and said nothing. But sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, her eyes rested on the necklace with a quiet sadness that felt heavier than anger. What the granddaughter didn't know was that the necklace had never been meant for laughter. It had appeared in the family during times of loss. Passed from mother to daughter when life became too heavy to carry alone. It had been worn during hunger, during heartbreak, during moments when survival demanded strength no one saw. No one spoke about its full history. The past was folded into silence, hidden between generations. But the necklace remembered. Still, the granddaughter refused to care. One evening, out of boredom more than curiosity, she picked it up from her grandmother's table. She turned it in her hands, inspecting the beads with a critical eye. They were imperfect. Each one slightly different. Clearly handmade. She smiled, amused. But then something strange happened. The necklace felt heavier than it should have. Not physically heavy, but weighted, like holding something filled with meaning she couldn't name. Warmth spread through her fingers, slow and steady, as if the beads were adjusting to her touch. She frowned and let it drop back onto the table. For a moment, she told herself it was imagination. The house was quiet. The air was thick with evening heat. Anyone could feel strange in moments like that. But as she turned away, an unease settled in her chest. The laughter that usually came so easily did not return. That night, she lay awake longer than usual, her thoughts restless. The image of the necklace stayed with her, its worn beads, its quiet presence, the way her grandmother had always treated it with care. She brushed the thoughts aside. Old things meant nothing, she told herself. Yet somewhere deep inside, something had shifted. And though she did not know it yet, the necklace had noticed her too. The past had been mocked long enough. Now it was waiting. Her grandmother had never lived a loud life. There were no grand stories of fame or wealth attached to her name. No photographs of celebrations or proud achievements hanging on the walls. Her life was written in quiet acts, early mornings, tired hands, and sacrifices made without asking for thanks. She had learned to endure before she learned to dream. As a young woman, she had faced loss early. People she loved disappeared from her life one by one, taken by sickness, hardship, and cruel turns of fate. Each loss hardened her in some ways and softened her in others. She cried in private. She learned to keep moving even when her heart felt too heavy to carry. Through all of it, the necklace remained. It was not given to her during a time of joy. It came to her during a season of pain, placed gently into her hands by another woman whose eyes were already tired from life. The necklace was never explained as something magical. It was described as something that remembered. Some things, the grandmother once believed, hold the weight of what we survive. The necklace passed through generations like a quiet promise. It was given when a daughter became a woman through loss. When a mother needed strength she did not know she had. When life demanded endurance instead of hope. Every woman added something to it. Not by choice but by living. Tears soaked into its cord. Hands shaking with fear clutched its beads. Silent prayers were pressed into it during sleepless nights. Over time, it became heavy with memory. But the granddaughter never asked about any of this. She saw only an old woman clinging to an old object. She saw weakness where there was strength. Fear where there was survival. To her, her grandmother belonged to another time, one she believed no longer mattered. Their distance grew slowly, like a crack spreading through stone. The granddaughter spoke with confidence, often without patience. She believed progress meant leaving the past behind. She believed respect meant tolerance, not understanding. When her grandmother shared old stories, she listened only halfway, waiting for the moment to change the subject. Her grandmother noticed. She noticed the sighs, the distracted glances, the polite smiles that carried no warmth. And though it hurt, she never forced herself into the girl's world. Instead, she watched. She watched her granddaughter move quickly, chasing dreams that looked impressive but felt empty. She saw how easily the girl laughed at things she didn't understand. How she mistook certainty for wisdom. And that frightened her. Not because the girl was wrong, but because she was alone. The grandmother believed the past was not a chain meant to trap the future. It was a foundation. Without it, a person could stand tall but fall easily. She wanted her granddaughter to know where she came from, not to limit her, but to protect her. Yet the words never came out right. Time passed and her health began to change. At first it was small things. Longer rests, shorter walks, a cough that lingered. Her hands trembled more often, but still she wore the necklace every day. It lay against her chest like a promise she refused to break. She did not speak of fear. She did not speak of endings. But she looked at her granddaughter more often now, as if measuring something unseen. As if weighing the space between them, wondering if it could still be crossed. The granddaughter noticed the changes, but she brushed them aside. Old age, she told herself. Nothing unusual. Still, something in her grandmother's eyes unsettled her. They held urgency. Like time was running out. And there were still too many things left unsaid. The moment came quietly, the way the most painful ones often do. There was no shouting. No anger filling the room. Just a small family gathering, the kind that passed without leaving much behind. Plates were cleared. Voices overlapped. Laughter rose and fell like background noise. Nothing about the evening suggested it would leave a scar. The grandmother sat in her usual place, calm and observant. The necklace rested against her chest, its beads catching the soft light. Her fingers moved over it without thought, a habit formed over many years. Someone noticed it and smiled. Another person asked about it, half curious, half amused. Before her grandmother could answer, the granddaughter spoke. She laughed and waved her hand, brushing the question aside. She joked about how the necklace was older than the house. How people once believed objects could protect them from pain. How fear dressed itself up as tradition. A few people laughed with her. The sound filled the room. But her grandmother did not. The old woman lowered her eyes. Her fingers tightened around the necklace just slightly. She said nothing. No defense. No correction. She did not look hurt, at least not in a way others could see. But the silence around her felt heavy. The granddaughter noticed it only for a moment. Guilt brushed past her, light and uncomfortable, but she ignored it. The laughter felt easier than reflection. It always did. Later that night, when the house grew quiet and the visitors had gone, her grandmother called her gently. The tone was soft, almost fragile. They sat together in the dim light of the room. The grandmother's hands trembled as she lifted the necklace over her head. She held it for a moment, studying the worn beads as if saying goodbye to something she loved. Then she reached out and placed it in her granddaughter's hands. Her voice was calm without blame. She told her to keep it. Not because she believed the girl understood it. Not because she thought the girl respected it. But just in case. Just in case life became heavy. Just in case she needed something she didn't yet believe in. The granddaughter accepted it slowly. The beads felt warm, unfamiliar. She nodded, unsure what to say. Gratitude did not come naturally in that moment, only discomfort. She placed the necklace in a drawer later that night, telling herself she would deal with it another day. But another day never came. Soon after, her grandmother's health worsened. Quietly. Quickly. Phone calls went unanswered. Rooms felt emptier. The house seemed to breathe differently, as if it knew something had ended. Then the news came. Simple words. Heavy meaning. The grandmother was gone. The house felt too silent after that. Every corner carried her presence, yet she was nowhere. The granddaughter moved through the room slowly, touching familiar objects as if they might explain what had happened. When she opened the drawer and saw the necklace, her chest tightened. She picked it up and held it in her palm. The laughter from that night returned to her mind, sharp and cruel. The jokes she had made. The silence that followed. The look her grandmother had worn so carefully. Regret settled deep. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just heavy. She wrapped her fingers around the necklace, pressing the beads into her skin. For the first time she did not feel embarrassed by it. She did not mock it. She missed her grandmother. And for the first time she wondered what stories she had refused to hear. Grief did not arrive all at once. It came in quiet waves, slipping into her days without warning. Some mornings felt normal. Others felt heavy before she even opened her eyes. She told herself this was how loss worked, that time would smooth the pain, that life would return to its usual rhythm. But something else had begun to change. It started with small sensations she could not explain. When she held the necklace during moments of sadness, it felt warm against her skin as if it absorbed her tears. When anger rose inside her, anger at herself, at the world, at the unfairness of loss, the cord seemed to tighten slightly, pressing against her throat like a warning. When guilt surfaced, the beads felt heavier, pulling downward, reminding her of something unfinished. At first she dismissed it. Stress, she thought. Imagination. Grief playing tricks on the mind. She had always believed feelings could make the body do strange things. She told herself this was no different. Yet the necklace refused to be ignored. At night her dreams changed. She saw unfamiliar faces, women standing in old rooms holding children, staring into distance with tired eyes. She heard soft murmurs she couldn't understand. She woke with her heart racing, her hand already gripping the necklace as if it had guided her there. During the day memories surfaced without warning. Moments with her grandmother she had pushed aside. The way the old woman used to hum while working. The way her eyes softened when she spoke of the past. The patience she had shown even when met with mockery. These memories came with weight. And the necklace always seemed to react. She tried to leave it behind one morning, placing it on the table before leaving the house. Halfway through the day, a strange unease followed her. Her thoughts felt scattered. Her chest felt hollow. That night she put the necklace back on. The feeling eased. She noticed it then, how her emotions and the necklace seemed tied together. How it responded almost gently to her inner storms. Not controlling them but acknowledging them. Still she resisted the idea. She told herself she was projecting meaning onto an object because she needed comfort. She told herself grief needed a focus, and her mind had chosen the necklace. Logic became her shield. But logic cracked one evening. She sat alone in her room, the lights dim, the necklace resting in her palm. Tears fell freely now, no longer held back by pride. She whispered apologies she knew could not be heard. As her sorrow deepened, warmth spread through the beads, stronger than before. Then a thought formed in her mind. Not her own. It was clear. Firm. A presence, not a sound. It addressed her directly. Her breath caught. Her body froze. The room felt suddenly too quiet, as if the air itself was listening. She did not hear a voice in the way voices are heard. There were no words spoken aloud. But the meaning was unmistakable. The necklace was answering her. Panic surged first. She pulled her hand away, heart pounding, telling herself she was imagining things. She stood, paced the room, tried to steady her breathing. But the feeling remained. A sense of being seen. Not judged, but noticed. Slowly she sat back down. Her hands trembled as she touched the necklace again. The warmth returned, steady and patient. And the presence lingered. Something within her shifted. This was no longer grief playing tricks. The necklace had begun to speak, not in sound but in memory, emotion, and truth. And it was no longer waiting. The first images did not come gently. They rushed into her mind like a storm breaking through a locked door. She gasped, clutching the necklace as her surroundings faded. The room remained, yet it felt far away, thin and unreal, as if she were standing between two worlds. She saw a young woman standing in a small, dim home. Her clothes were simple. Her eyes were tired far beyond her years. In her arms, she held a child while the weight of the world pressed down on her shoulders. The granddaughter felt the woman's fear. Not as a thought, but as a deep, aching truth. She knew this woman had lost someone. A husband. A brother. A future she once believed in. Hunger sat beside her like an unwelcome guest. Hope flickered, fragile and unsure. The vision shifted. Another woman appeared, older now, her hands rough from work. She pressed the necklace into her chest during a night filled with worry. Outside, the world felt dangerous. Inside, she fought to keep her family alive. Pain flowed through the granddaughter like a river she could not stop. She tried to pull away, but the necklace held her steady. The presence surrounding her did not comfort her. It did not soften the truth. It showed it. More images followed. Loss after loss. Mothers burying daughters. Daughters burying mothers. Women forced to grow strong because weakness meant survival would slip through their fingers. The granddaughter's heart raced. Then came her grandmother. Not as the fragile woman she had known, but as a young girl standing at the edge of grief. She watched her grandmother endure moments she had never spoken of. Dreams abandoned. Choices made out of duty, not desire. Love carried quietly even when it was not returned. The voice finally became clear. Not gentle. Firm. It did not speak in full sentences, but in meaning that pressed against her mind. It showed her how she had laughed at what was built from pain. How she had dismissed what carried generations of strength. How pride had closed her ears to stories that mattered. The granddaughter felt exposed. Judged. Invaded. She shook her head, whispering denial. She told herself she never meant harm. That she was only being honest. That the past should not rule the future. The presence did not argue. It simply showed her more. Moments when her grandmother had looked at her with quiet hope. Moments when words were swallowed because love was patient. Moments when disappointment lived beside forgiveness. Guilt burned through her chest. She tried to pull the necklace away, her fingers tightening around it. But the weight did not lessen. If anything, it grew heavier, grounding her in the truth she had avoided. Then something changed. The images slowed. The voice softened, but only slightly. She felt the presence of many. Not just her grandmother. Women layered upon women. Lives stacked like pages in a book that had never been read aloud. Each voice carried pain but also endurance. Each one whispered the same truth. They had survived. And they wanted to be remembered. The granddaughter's resistance weakened. Her breathing steadied, though her eyes burned with tears. She understood now that this was not an attack. It was a reckoning. The necklace did not want worship. It wanted acknowledgement. She had mocked what she did not understand. She had mistaken silence for weakness. She had believed strength only came in loud, visible forms. The past did not demand control over her life. It asked for respect. As the images faded, the room slowly returned. The walls felt solid again. The air moved. But the presence remained, quiet now, watching. She lowered her head, exhausted. And for the first time, she realized the necklace did not carry one voice. It carried many. Bound by loss. Bound by love. Bound by the unspoken promise that their stories would not end in silence. After that night, nothing felt simple anymore. She went through her days as she always had, waking early, moving fast, speaking with confidence, but something inside her had shifted. The certainty she once carried so easily now felt heavy, like armor worn too long. It protected her, yes, but it also kept her from breathing. The images from the necklace followed her everywhere. Not as clear visions, but as feelings that rose without warning. A quiet sadness when she passed older women on the street. A tightness in her chest when she heard stories of sacrifice. A sharp ache when she remembered how often she had rolled her eyes at her grandmother's words. She had always believed pride was strength. Now she was not so sure. She began to notice the ways her confidence had turned into distance. How her sharp words had closed doors instead of opening them. How her laughter, meant to show intelligence, had sometimes carried cruelty. The necklace did not speak as often now. It did not need to. It showed her memories, small moments she had dismissed at the time. Her grandmother waiting patiently while she scrolled through her phone. Her grandmother stopping mid-sentence when she realized she wasn't being heard. The gentle smile used to hide disappointment. Each memory felt like a quiet accusation. Guilt pressed down on her, thick and heavy. She tried to push it away, telling herself she had not meant harm. But intention no longer felt like an excuse. She understood now that carelessness could wound just as deeply as cruelty. For the first time, she questioned who she was becoming. She asked herself why she had been so afraid of the past. Why old stories irritated her. Why she believed moving forward meant cutting ties instead of strengthening them. The answer came slowly. She had feared becoming trapped. She had believed that if she listened too closely, she would lose herself. That tradition would steal her freedom. That respect meant surrender. The necklace showed her something different. It showed her that the women before her had not been trapped by memory. They had been carried by it. Their strength did not come from forgetting, but from remembering who they were and where they came from. One afternoon, she stood in front of a mirror, the necklace lying on the table beside her. For weeks, she had kept it hidden under her clothes, close to her skin but unseen. Part of her still felt exposed wearing it openly, as if admitting it mattered would mean admitting she had been wrong. Her pride resisted. Then she reached out and lifted it. She placed the necklace around her neck slowly, letting the beads rest against her chest where everyone could see them. The weight felt different now. Not heavy. Steady. She stepped outside like that, expecting judgment, laughter, or at least curiosity. None came. The world moved on. And she realized something important. The fear had never been in the necklace. It had been in her. Over time, the tone of the presence within the necklace changed. It no longer pressed memories into her mind with force. Instead, it waited, allowed her to come closer at her own pace. The emotional storms eased. In their place came understanding. She no longer flinched at stories of the past. She listened. She asked questions. She let herself feel discomfort without running from it. One evening, as she held the necklace gently, a thought surfaced, clear and calm. Not accusing. Not demanding. Understanding. She finally admitted the truth to herself. She had mocked what she never tried to understand. And in doing so, she had mocked love, endurance, and sacrifice disguised as tradition. The wall of pride she had built over years did not fall all at once. But it cracked. And through those cracks, something softer began to grow. The truth did not arrive suddenly. It unfolded slowly, like a memory that had been waiting for the right moment to surface. The necklace no longer forced visions upon her. Instead, it guided her gently, allowing understanding to grow at its own pace. One evening, as she sat alone, holding the necklace in both hands, the presence returned, quiet, steady, and patient. This time the images came with clarity. She saw the beginning. Long before her grandmother. Long before the house, the family name, the stories she had half listened to. The world in the vision was harsh and uncertain. Hunger was common. Loss was expected. Survival was never guaranteed. A young woman stood at the center of it all. Her eyes were filled with grief, but her posture remained firm. She had lost nearly everything: family, safety, certainty. War, betrayal, or famine had torn her life apart. The details shifted, but the pain remained constant. In that moment of unbearable loss, the necklace was created. Not as jewelry. As a promise. The woman carved each bead with shaking hands. She tied the cord while tears fell freely. Each movement was an act of defiance against despair. The necklace was meant to hold pain so the heart would not have to carry it alone. As generations passed, the necklace followed the women who needed it most. It was never given lightly. It was passed down when life demanded strength that felt impossible to find. Each woman added something to it, not by choice but by living through hardship with dignity. Grief soaked into the cord. Hope shaped the beads. Forgiveness softened its weight. The granddaughter felt the truth settle inside her like a deep breath she had been holding for years. The necklace was not magic. It did not change fate or protect against pain. It endured. Remembered. Her grandmother's presence emerged clearly now. She saw the fear her grandmother had carried, the fear that the chain would break with her, that the stories would be lost, that the lessons carved from suffering would fade into silence. The grandmother had never wanted her granddaughter to be bound by the past. She wanted her to be anchored by it. The presence within the necklace offered no commands, no warnings, just a choice. The meaning was clear. She could turn away, dismiss everything she had learned, and return to the life she once lived. The necklace would remain silent. The past would fade again. Or she could carry it forward. Not as a burden, as a responsibility. The weight of the necklace shifted slightly in her hands, steady and calm. The choice was hers. And for the first time, she understood that honoring the past did not mean living in it. It meant remembering it, and choosing not to let its lessons die. The true test did not arrive with warning. It did not announce itself as fate or destiny. It slipped into her life quietly, wearing the face of opportunity. The kind she had chased for years. The kind she once believed would define her worth. An offer came, one that promised success, recognition, and freedom. It required sacrifice, but that was nothing new to her. She had always believed ambition demanded tough choices. Leaving things behind. Cutting emotional ties. Choosing herself without apology. This time the choice felt different. The offer meant leaving home for good. Moving far away. Starting fresh, untethered from the past. It was everything her old self would have accepted without hesitation. But it came at a cost. Someone close to her needed support. Not dramatic, not loud, but real. A quiet struggle that mirrored her grandmother's past. A person facing loss, confusion, and fear, standing at the edge of a future that suddenly felt unstable. Once she would have turned away. Once she would have said she could not pause her life for someone else's pain. Now she felt the weight of the necklace against her chest. And then, nothing. The presence that had guided her, comforted her, and challenged her fell silent. No warmth. No pressure. No inner voice. She reached for it instinctively, waiting for direction. But the necklace did not respond. Panic followed. She had grown used to its guidance, even if she never admitted it. Without it, she felt exposed. Alone with her thoughts. Alone with her choice. The silence was deliberate. This was hers to face. Days passed as she wrestled with herself. She listed reasons. Justifications. Excuses. She told herself that helping others did not mean sacrificing her future. That compassion did not require delay. Yet every argument rang hollow. She remembered the women from the visions, how they had not chosen hardship, but had chosen kindness even when life gave them none. She remembered her grandmother's quiet strength, her patience, her belief that some moments defined who you became. This was one of those moments. The night before she was meant to decide, she barely slept. Her thoughts circled endlessly. Fear tugged at her chest. Fear of regret. Fear of staying. Fear of becoming someone she did not recognize. At dawn, she stood in front of the mirror, the necklace resting against her skin. Still silent. She realized then that the necklace was not testing her loyalty to the past. It was testing her growth. She had been given knowledge, understanding, empathy. Now she had to act without guidance. When the moment came, she made her choice. She stepped away from the offer. Not with bitterness. With clarity. She chose to stay. To support. To stand beside someone in need rather than chase a future that demanded she look away. The relief surprised her. So did the peace. Later that evening, as she sat quietly, the necklace warmed against her chest for the first time in days. The presence returned, not forceful, not loud. Approving. No words were needed. She understood. This act did not erase her ambitions. It did not trap her in the past. It proved she could move forward without abandoning compassion. Something ancient and fragile had been repaired. The bond between generations, once strained, now felt whole. The necklace had fallen silent again, but this time it felt complete. The days that followed felt lighter. For the first time in years, she moved through the world without the constant weight of pride pressing on her chest. The necklace rested there still, warm and steady, but it no longer whispered with urgency. It was a presence, not a voice. A quiet companion that reminded her that she was no longer alone with her choices. She began to notice the small ways her life could change. Conversations with friends became more patient, more attentive. She listened without planning her next word. She smiled without needing to appear clever. She reached out to family members she had once overlooked, offering care without expectation of recognition. Each act, small as it seemed, brought relief she had not realized she had been craving. The necklace reflected her transformation in subtle ways. When she hugged a friend who had suffered quietly, the beads warmed gently. When she forgave someone who had wronged her, the cord felt almost weightless against her chest. It was as if every act of empathy, every moment she chose connection over pride, allowed the necklace to exhale its centuries of burden, resting finally in peace. She began to remember her grandmother not as the strict old woman she had mocked, but as the extraordinary force she truly was. She thought of the sacrifices that had been made in silence, the love that had been offered without expectation, and the patience that had been shown even in the face of disregard. Slowly, she understood that the necklace had never been meant to punish her. It had been meant to teach her. And teach her it did. She started honoring her grandmother's memory in small, meaningful ways. She cooked the meals her grandmother had loved. She kept the home tidy in ways that reminded her of the care her grandmother had always put into the house. She spoke softly like her grandmother had, even when it wasn't easy. She found that the world felt softer when she moved with care, when she carried the past lightly rather than leaving it behind. Her relationships improved as well. Friends noticed the change. They commented on her calm presence, the way she seemed to listen more deeply. Family members felt closer, sensing that she had learned patience, respect, and understanding. She no longer rushed through life seeking validation. Instead, she acted intentionally, guided by empathy rather than pride. And yet, the necklace did not speak. It did not need to. Its presence alone was enough, a reminder that wisdom did not shout. It waited. It observed. It rested in the quiet moments when one chose to act with care and thoughtfulness. There were evenings when she still held it in her hands, remembering the voices of the women who had carried it before her. She felt the weight of their stories, but no longer as a burden. Now it was strength. She could feel their endurance, their courage, their love flowing through her. And in those moments she understood something profound. The necklace had always been more than a family heirloom. It was a vessel of memory, a bridge connecting generations through hardship and triumph, sorrow and hope. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting her room in gold, she stood by the window, necklace resting lightly against her chest. She thought of her grandmother's life, the resilience, the quiet strength, the sacrifices that had shaped her family. She whispered a promise, not aloud but in her heart, to carry forward the lessons she had learned, to honor the past not through words alone, but through action, through compassion, and through living intentionally. The necklace no longer needed to speak. Its purpose had been fulfilled. And yet, its presence remained powerful. It reminded her that love endured. That strength was found in patience and understanding. That some things carried weight because they held history, memory, and care. She had mocked it once, doubted it, ignored it, but now she knew its truth. She understood that the necklace would not fade, would not disappear, because it was alive with the choices of those who had come before her and those who would come after. Its silence was not emptiness, it was completion. As night fell and stars appeared, she closed her eyes and felt peace. The past and present intertwined. The legacy of her grandmother rested lightly on her shoulders, but it was not a burden. It was a gift. A reminder that she was part of a chain that had survived hardship, endured loss, and still carried hope. And in that moment she smiled. Redemption had arrived. Reconnection had arrived. And for the first time she felt truly whole. The necklace rested against her heart. Silent, warm, eternal. In the quiet that followed, she finally understood the weight she had once ignored. The laughter, the jokes, the casual dismissal. All of it now felt like a shadow she had carried for far too long. It had been easy to mock what she did not understand, to ridicule what seemed outdated, to dismiss what she thought held no value. But the necklace had taught her the truth. Some things are never meant to be mocked. Legacy is not something loud or flashy. It does not demand attention. It rests quietly in objects, in stories, in habits, in love passed down from hand to hand. It survives because someone believed enough to protect it, because someone endured hardship without complaining, because someone loved deeply and silently. The necklace had survived wars, famine, heartbreak, and loss. Each bead held the memory of a woman who had lived fully, who had suffered and still chosen strength, who had carried her own burdens while protecting those who came after. It had been passed from generation to generation, not as decoration, but as a testament to endurance, resilience, and love. She had laughed at it, not realizing that mocking it was, in a way, mocking every woman who had come before her. She had laughed at pain she could not see, at sacrifices she could not imagine, at wisdom she refused to hear. Her pride had blinded her to the quiet power of understanding. But now she saw clearly. She saw that to honor the past was not to be trapped by it. It was to learn from it, to carry its lessons, and to make choices that reflected the strength of those who had walked before her. The necklace was not a relic of superstition. It was a bridge between lives, a reminder that love and memory outlast time. She reflected on the generations of women who had touched the necklace. Each had contributed their stories, their endurance, their courage. And now it rested with her, not to control her, but to remind her of what had been endured and what could continue. She understood that respect often begins with humility. That mocking the past is rarely a sign of strength. It is often a sign of ignorance. And that true wisdom does not demand attention or recognition. It waits patiently, sometimes for decades, for someone willing to listen, to feel, to understand. The necklace would not speak again, not because it had lost power, but because she no longer needed guidance. Its purpose had been fulfilled. Its lessons were imprinted within her heart. She could move forward in life with clarity, compassion, and an understanding that some things carry voices that last far longer than a single lifetime. She thought of her grandmother and the quiet strength she had carried, of the sacrifices made, the lessons taught without words, and the love shown even when it was met with mockery. She held the necklace gently and promised that its story would not end with her. Someday it would pass to another woman in need, another person standing on the edge of hardship, another heart that needed guidance, warmth, and courage. It would pass quietly without fanfare as it always had. And she would honor it with care, not mockery. She would remember that some objects are vessels of memory, of endurance, of love. They hold stories, yes, but more than that, they hold lessons, lessons that shape who we are and who we become. In that quiet moment, she realized that mocking the necklace had never been harmless. But redemption, understanding, and humility had given her the chance to right that wrong. She understood that love, memory, and respect are choices we make every day. That by choosing to honor what came before, we ensure it does not fade, that it lives on in how we act, in how we care, and in how we pass it forward. The necklace rested lightly against her chest. Silent, warm, steady. A reminder of what had been endured. A reminder of what she had learned. A reminder of the power of patience, compassion, and humility. Some things, she understood at last, are never meant to be mocked. They are meant to be felt. They are meant to be remembered. They are meant to be carried with care. And in carrying them, we honor not just the past but ourselves, and all those who came before us. The past does not demand fear. It does not demand obedience. It demands only respect. And in that respect, we find the courage to live fully, love deeply, and pass on the wisdom of those who came before us. The necklace, once laughed at, now lay as a silent teacher. Its story continued, not in words, but in the choices she made, in the compassion she offered, and in the legacy she would carry forward. And she understood, finally, that some voices never fade, not because they are loud but because they are rooted in love that refuses to die. The past had spoken. She had listened. And now the story would continue.